I thought I had it all. A beautiful fiancée from Brazil, a life together in America, and a wedding just months away. Sophia was everything I wanted in a partner. But there was one thing that started to bother me. Whenever her mother Isabella visited, they would switch to Portuguese the moment I walked into the room. At first I thought nothing of it. Their native language, their business, but something in their tone and their glances my way made me wonder what they were really saying. Let me know where you are watching from in the comments, and hit that subscribe button for more real-life stories that might just save your relationship someday. I met Sophia at an international cultural festival in downtown Boston 2 years ago. I was there with some buddies from work, mainly for the food and live music, when I spotted her at a Brazilian cultural booth. She was explaining traditional customs to visitors, her smile lighting up the entire tent. I remember thinking she was not only gorgeous, but passionate about sharing her heritage. After circling back to her booth 3 times, I finally worked up the courage to talk to her. We hit it off immediately. Sophia had this infectious laugh, and a way of making me feel like the most interesting person in the world. She had moved to the United States 12 years ago when she was 15, but still maintained strong ties to Brazil. She taught Portuguese at a local college and did translation work on the side. I was captivated by her stories about growing up in Sao Paulo and how different life was there compared to Boston. Our relationship moved quickly. After just 3 months of dating, we were seeing each other almost every day. By month 8, we had moved in together, combining our lives in my 2-bedroom apartment near the university where she taught. Everything seemed perfect between us. We rarely argued, shared similar values about family and work, and genuinely enjoyed being together. When I proposed to her during our vacation in Cabo San Lucas 3 months ago, she cried tears of joy and said yes without hesitation. It was shortly after we announced our engagement that I first met Isabella, her mother. Sophia had mentioned that her mother was protective and traditional, but I was confident I could win her over. Isabella had moved to America after divorcing Sophia's father when Sophia was 10 years old. The rest of their family, including Sophia's 2 older brothers, remained in Brazil. This made Isabella and Sophia extremely close, almost like sisters at times. My first impression of Isabella was that she was a warm, passionate woman who clearly adored her daughter. She hugged me tightly when we met, called me handsome, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. We spent that first dinner together with Isabella, asking about my job as a software engineer, my family in Michigan, and my plans for the future. I left feeling like I had passed some sort of test. But things began to change after that initial meeting. Isabella started visiting our apartment more frequently, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week. I tried to be understanding, as I knew how important family was to Sophia. However, I noticed something that increasingly made me uncomfortable. Whenever I would enter a room where Sophia and Isabella were talking, they would immediately switch from English to Portuguese. The first few times, I thought nothing of it. They would smile at me sometimes. Sophia would briefly explain they were discussing family matters, and I would go about my business. But as weeks went by, I noticed a pattern. The switch to Portuguese was immediate and consistent. Sometimes their tone would change, becoming more hushed. Occasionally, I caught Isabella glancing at me with what seemed like disapproval before continuing the conversation. When I asked Sophia about these conversations, she always had a ready explanation. They were discussing her cousin's problems in Brazil. They were planning what Brazilian dishes to serve at the wedding. They were reminiscing about relatives I had never met. Her explanations were plausible, but something felt off. What really began to concern me was how Isabella's attitude toward me seemed to change after these private conversations. She became less warm, more evaluating in her gaze. She would ask pointed questions about my career prospects and financial situation. Once I overheard her asking Sophia in English whether my company had good growth potential before they noticed me and switched to Portuguese. The wedding planning process also started to change. Initially, Sophia and I had agreed on a small ceremony with close friends and family, possibly on a beach. But after several meetings with Isabella, Sophia began pushing for a larger, more traditional wedding. She wanted to invite distant relatives from Brazil I had never heard of. The budget we had agreed on was suddenly inadequate. Most concerning was when Sophia began expressing doubts about our timeline. We had set a date 6 months from our engagement, but now she was suggesting we might need more time. When I asked why, her answers were vague. We needed more time to plan. Her family needed more time to arrange travel. She wanted everything to be perfect. My uneasiness grew stronger when she came home one evening and announced that maybe we should postpone the wedding for a year. This was after spending the afternoon with Isabella. When I pressed for a reason, she simply said she did not want to rush into marriage. This from the woman who had eagerly moved in with me after 8 months and joyfully accepted my proposal in Cabo. I confided my concerns to my friend Diego, who had grown up in Brazil and had moved to the States as a teenager. We had become friends through a pickup soccer league, and I trusted his insight into Brazilian culture. When I described the situation, his face grew serious. "Man, I do not want to alarm you," Diego said, "but this does not sound good. In Brazilian families, especially traditional ones, the mother has a lot of influence over who her daughter marries. If Isabella has decided you are not right for Sophia, for some reason she might be trying to sabotage the relationship, but what could they be saying that they do not want me to hear?" I asked. Diego hesitated before answering. "Have you considered finding out what they are actually saying? Maybe record them." I was shocked at the suggestion. Record them. That seems like an invasion of privacy. "Look, normally I would never suggest something like this," Diego replied, "but you are about to marry this woman. If there is something going on that could affect your future, do not you think you have a right to know?" I dismissed the idea initially. I loved Sophia and wanted to trust her. But over the next 2 weeks, things got worse. Sophia began taking phone calls in another room, speaking in hushed Portuguese. She started going through our finances, asking detailed questions about my savings and investments. And then came the bombshell. She suggested we should consider a prenuptial agreement. This was completely contrary to all our previous discussions about marriage. We had talked openly about combining our lives completely, including finances. When I asked what prompted this change of heart, she mentioned offhandedly that her mother thought it was the modern, sensible thing to do. That night, after Sophia had fallen asleep, I lay awake, contemplating Diego's suggestion. Was it wrong to want to know what they were saying about me, about our future? The thought of recording them made me uncomfortable, but the alternative, potentially walking into a marriage with hidden agendas, seemed worse. The next day, I purchased a small digital voice recorder. My plan was simple, but made me feel sick with guilt. I would place the recorder under the coffee table in our living room before leaving for work, knowing Sophia and Isabella often sat there during their morning visits. I would only do this for a few days, just to confirm that my suspicions were unfounded, that I was being paranoid. The first recording captured only mundane conversation. They discussed a recipe, talked about a mutual friend in Brazil, and complained about the weather. I felt simultaneously relieved and ashamed for doubting them. Maybe this had all been in my head. The second recording, taken 3 days later, was different. I could tell from their tones that the conversation was more serious. There were long pauses, occasional sighs from Sophia, and Isabella's voice had a forceful quality I recognized, even without understanding the words. The third recording, taken a week after I began this regrettable surveillance, was the longest. It captured nearly 2 hours of conversation between Sophia and her mother. By this point, my guilt was overwhelming, but so was my need to know the truth. I took all 3 recordings to Diego's apartment. His expression was grim as I explained what I had done. "I know this was wrong," I said, "but I need to know what they are saying." "Can you help me?" Diego agreed reluctantly. We sat at his kitchen table, and he translated as we listened to the recordings. What I heard shattered my heart. The second recording revealed Isabella questioning Sophia about her certainty regarding our marriage. "He is nice enough," Isabella said in Portuguese. "But is he really what you want for the rest of your life? He does not have the ambition to provide the lifestyle you deserve. Paulo always had bigger plans." Paulo. The name hit me like a punch to the stomach. Sophia's ex-boyfriend from Brazil. She had mentioned him once or twice, describing him as her college sweetheart, someone she had dated for 2 years before moving on. Nothing serious, she had said. Sophia's response was hesitant. Paulo and I are in the past, mother. Wyatt is good to me. He loves me. Love does not pay for the life you want, Isabella replied. And from what you have told me, Paulo still loves you. He has done well for himself now. The third recording was worse. Much worse. Isabella was pressing Sophia about whether she had thought more about the prenuptial agreement. You need to protect yourself, Isabella insisted. Make sure it heavily favors you. Americans divorce all the time. If things do not work out, you should be compensated for the years you give him. I do not think Wyatt will agree to that kind of arrangement, Sophia replied. Then perhaps you should reconsider if he is the right one to marry, Isabella said coldly. Paulo would give you anything you ask for. He still asks about you, you know. Then came the revelation that broke me. Sophia admitted she had been in contact with Paulo for months. They had been texting regularly. She had even seen him during what she had told me was a work trip to New York, where Paulo was apparently now working for a Brazilian bank. He still wants to be with me, Sophia confessed to her mother. He says his feelings never changed. Isabella's voice turned calculating. Listen to me, Sophia. I have been thinking about this. If you are determined to marry Wyatt, then we need to be smart. The prenup must heavily favor you. After a few years, if you are not happy, you take what you can and go back to Brazil. Paulo will wait for you. He comes from a good family. His parents still adore you. But what about my feelings for Wyatt? Sophia asked, though her voice lacked conviction. Feelings change, Isabella dismissed. Trust your mother. I want what is best for you. By the time Diego finished translating, I felt physically ill. The room seemed to spin around me. The woman I loved, the woman I had asked to be my wife, had been lying to me. Not just about her conversations with her mother, but about another man. A man she had apparently never stopped loving. Diego put his hand on my shoulder. I am sorry, man. I really am. That night, I could not sleep. I lay on Diego's couch, my mind racing. I checked Sophia's social media accounts, something I rarely did. There, I found evidence supporting everything I had heard. Comments from Paulo on old photos. Vague posts about missing Brazil that coincided with her supposed work trip to New York. I went deeper, searching for Paulo online. I found his profile easily. He was handsome, worked for a prestigious international bank, and came from a wealthy São Paulo family. His recent photos showed an expensive apartment designer clothes vacations in exotic locations. Everything Isabella would approve of. The next day, I took a sick day from work and met with a lawyer. I needed to understand my options, how to protect myself. The lawyer was sympathetic but direct. If you believe your fiancé is entering the marriage under false pretenses, my strongest advice is not to go through with it, she said. Breaking an engagement is far simpler than going through a divorce, especially if there might be financial motivations at play. That afternoon, I called Diego again. I need your help planning something, I said. I want to confront them, but I need to do it in a way they cannot deny or talk their way out of. Over the next few days, I gathered evidence while pretending everything was normal with Sophia. I saved screenshots of Paulo's interactions with her online. I made copies of the recordings. I even found a receipt for a hotel in New York in her email that overlapped with Paulo's visit there according to his social media. I also asked Diego to teach me a few key phrases in Portuguese, just enough to shock them when the time came. I decided to stage the confrontation at our apartment during one of Isabella's regular visits. I invited them both to dinner, saying I wanted to discuss wedding plans. Specifically, I mentioned wanting to talk about the prenuptial agreement Sophia had suggested. This ensured Isabella would attend. The evening of the confrontation, I prepared a simple meal, opened wine, and set the table as if this were any normal dinner. When they arrived, Isabella was in good spirits, probably thinking her plan was working. Sophia seemed nervous, but I attributed that to her guilty conscience. We made small talk through appetizers. I asked about their day, commented on the weather, discussed an upcoming Brazilian festival in the city. All the while my heart pounded in my chest. I had hidden the voice recorder in my pocket, recording this final conversation for my own protection. As we moved to the main course, I steered the conversation toward the prenup. "So Sophia mentioned you think a prenuptial agreement would be wise," I said to Isabella, my voice steady despite my churning emotions. Isabella's eyes lit up. "Yes, it is the modern way. It protects both parties." I nodded thoughtfully. "I have been doing some research on the topic. I think I have an understanding of what would be fair." I took a sip of water before continuing. "But before we discuss details, I wanted to ask you both something." I reached for my phone, opened a translation app, and carefully read the phrase Diego had helped me practice. "Porque vocês estão me enganando? Why are you deceiving me?" The effect was immediate and dramatic. Both women froze, their forks suspended mid-air. Isabella recovered first, her face shifting from shock to defensive anger. "You speak Portuguese?" she demanded in English. "No," I replied calmly, "but I understand it now." I placed my phone on the table and played one of the recordings. Isabella's voice filled the room, clear and unmistakable. "After a few years, if you are not happy, you take what you can and go back to Brazil. Paulo will wait for you." The color drained from Sophia's face. "You recorded us. How could you do that?" "How could I? How could you, Sophia?" My voice finally broke. "How could you lie to me about Paulo? About your intentions for our marriage?" Isabella stood up her chair, scraping against the floor. "This is illegal. You cannot record people without their consent." I ignored her, focusing on Sophia. "Were you ever going to tell me about seeing Paulo in New York? About your plan to take my money and leave me?" Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "It is not like that, Wyatt. My mother, she has these ideas, but I love you." "Stop lying," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "I have seen the messages, Sophia. I know about the hotel in New York. I know everything." Isabella began speaking rapidly in Portuguese, clearly trying to coach Sophia on what to say. I interrupted by playing another recording, this one of Sophia, admitting her feelings for Paulo had never fully disappeared. "English, please," I said. "Out of respect for the man you are planning to marry." "This is all a misunderstanding." Sophia tried again, reaching for my hand across the table. I pulled away. "I trusted you with my heart, my future, my life," I said. "And all along you were planning an exit strategy. Was any of it real? Did you ever love me at all?" "Of course I loved you," Sophia insisted. "I still love you. Paulo is just. He is familiar. He is from home. But you are the one I chose." "After calculating what you could get from me," I said bitterly. "After your mother convinced you I was not good enough because I could not buy you the lifestyle Paulo could." Isabella interjected. "You have no right to judge us. You do not understand our culture, our values." "I understand honesty, Isabella. I understand loyalty. Those are universal values." I stood up suddenly, unable to bear being at the same table with them. "I want you both to leave. Now. Sophia, you can come back tomorrow to get your things while I am at work. Leave your key." "Wyatt, please," Sophia begged, tears streaming down her face. "We can work this out. I will cut off contact with Paulo. I will prove to you that you are the one I want." "It is too late," I said, feeling a strange calm settle over me. "You have both shown me who you really are. I deserve better than a marriage built on lies." Isabella grabbed her purse and pulled on Sophia's arm. "Come. He has made up his mind. Your father was right about Americans. No sense of family loyalty." As they walked to the door, I called out one last phrase Diego had taught me. "O merezco mais do que mentiras." I deserve more than lies. The days after the confrontation were some of the darkest of my life. I had to call off a wedding, explain the situation to confused friends and family, and face the emptiness of an apartment that still held traces of Sophia everywhere I looked. Sophia tried repeatedly to contact me. She left tearful voicemails, sent long emails explaining how she had been manipulated by her mother, swore she had ended all communication with Paulo. At one point she showed up at my workplace, causing such a scene that security had to escort her out. Isabella was less persistent but more vindictive. She spread rumors among our mutual acquaintances that I had anger issues, that I had been controlling and suspicious throughout the relationship. Some people believed her. Others who knew me better stood by me. The hardest part was dealing with my own emotions. The anger I could handle, even the heartbreak. It was the doubt that tortured me. Had I overreacted? Had I thrown away a relationship that could have been saved? Had I done the right thing by recording their private conversations? I discussed these doubts with my therapist, who I began seeing 2 weeks after the breakup. She helped me understand that while my methods might have been questionable, my instincts had been sound. I had uncovered a genuine betrayal. The recordings had simply confirmed what my intuition had already been telling me. Relationships require trust, she told me. Once that foundation is broken, rebuilding, it requires complete honesty and commitment from both parties. From what you have described, Sophia was not fully committed to honesty even after being confronted. She was right. Even in her apologies and explanations, Sophia continued to minimize her actions, to shift blame to her mother or to circumstances. She never fully owned her betrayal or her ongoing feelings for Paulo. 3 months after the confrontation, I ran into a mutual friend who revealed that Sophia had moved back to Brazil. According to this friend, she had reconnected with Paulo and was now living in São Paulo. The news hurt, but it also confirmed that I had made the right decision. Her true intentions had been revealed. During this period, my friendship with Diego became a lifeline. He understood both cultures and could provide perspective on what had happened, without excusing the betrayal. We began meeting weekly for pickup soccer games, followed by dinner, a routine that gave structure to my healing process. You know, Diego said one evening over beers, there is a saying in Brazil, depois da tempestade vem a bonança. After the storm comes fair weather. This pain you are feeling, it will pass. He was right. Gradually, the raw wound of betrayal began to heal. I threw myself into work, earning a promotion 6 months after the breakup. I rekindled old friendships that had taken a back seat during my relationship with Sophia. I even started taking Portuguese lessons, determined not to let this experience sour me on an entire culture and language. The Portuguese lessons were therapeutic in a way I had not anticipated. Learning the language gave me a sense of reclaiming something that had been used against me. It also helped me process conversations I had partially understood through Diego's translations, allowing me to fully grasp nuances that had been lost. 8 months after the breakup, I felt ready to date again. I met Amanda at a friend's birthday party. She was kind, straightforward, and refreshingly direct in her communication. On our 3rd date, I told her about my experience with Sophia. I expected her to be put off by my baggage, but instead she appreciated my honesty. Everyone has a past, she said. What matters is what you learned from it, and I had learned so much. I learned to trust my instincts when something feels wrong. I learned that love does not excuse betrayal. I learned that cultural differences are no justification for dishonesty. Most importantly, I learned that I was stronger than I thought, capable of walking away from something that was wrong for me, no matter how painful that decision might be. 1 year after the confrontation, I received an unexpected email from Sophia. She was married to Paulo, now living the life her mother had always wanted for her. But she was not writing to gloat or to hurt me. She was writing to apologize truly and sincerely, without excuses or blame shifting. I have had time to reflect on my actions and the pain I caused you, she wrote. You deserve better than what I gave you. The truth is, I was torn between 2 worlds, 2 loves, and I handled it in the worst possible way. I hope someday you can forgive me, not for my sake, but for yours, so you can fully move forward without bitterness. I read the email several times. Then I closed it, marked it as read, and never replied. Not out of anger or resentment, but because some chapters are better left closed. Sophia had her closure and I had mine. Today my life looks nothing like what I had planned 2 years ago. There is no Brazilian wife, no bilingual children, no ties to Sao Paulo. Instead, there is peace. There is honest communication with Amanda, who recently moved in with me. There is a new appreciation for transparency in all my relationships. Sometimes I think about what might have happened if I had never recorded those conversations, if I had gone through with the marriage, unaware of Sophia's divided loyalties and her mother's manipulations. The thought makes me shudder. As painful as the truth was, it set me free. If there is one thing I would share with anyone listening to my story, it is this: trust your instincts. If something feels wrong in your relationship, pay attention to that feeling. Seek the truth even when it hurts. And remember that you deserve a love that is honest, undivided, and true. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever discovered a betrayal that changed the course of your life? Would you have handled the situation differently? Do not forget to like this video and subscribe for more real stories about navigating the complex world of relationships. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings.